Now that my render looks really cool in the render view, I am all set to export this out of Maya. At this point, I can no longer use the playblast because, naturally, all this information is a little bit too big for my perspective view to manage, so the playblast, because it only renders what it sees in the perspective view, isn't going to be able to handle all of this. Instead, I am going to have to use an export called a render. For this, I'm going to start back in my render settings window. Again, Windows, Rendering Editor, Render Settings. At this point, I can come over to the Common tab, and the first thing I see in the Common tab is that right now the path that my render will take is automatically placed and there's no way for me to change it. In this case, mine is going to see users Claire, desktop, lighting 01, still life, images, and then it's going to render out a file called bouncingballdemo01.exr. There's no clicky button here where I can change the place that Maya is going to put this file. The only way to do that is through a process in the File menu called Project Window. Project Window will allow me to create a project directory. I will click the New button here. Again, I'll go to my desktop, and in this case I will say Bouncing Ball Project, enter. When I accept this, what Maya will do is create a series of file folders on my desktop. It will make one for my scenes, one for my images, and a whole bunch of others that we don't need just yet, but may as the semester progresses. I will say accept, and one thing that you'll see is right here, my path changes to my Bouncing Ball project. I am going to the Images folder in Bouncing Ball. That's great. All I have to do is pop out to my very messy desktop and see if I can find that Bouncing Ball project. It's here somewhere, just so you can see what one of these looks like. If I open this one up, this is for another class that I'm working on. When I go into it, it'll have all of these folders. As I start to export, the images will come here into the Images folder, and I'll be able to access them. They will look just like normal ordinary image files if they open on my poor computer. There it is. So that's what I'm working on with my other class. So you will have a similar setup with yours. Just be sure that when you make the project directory, you put it someplace sensible where you'll be able to find it. Now that my path is taken care of, my file name is the next problem. Bouncing Ball Demo 01 is a really long name. So down here under File Output, I can set a new name. We'll call this Claire Bouncing Ball. You could call it Weight Ball, you could call it First Animation. Whatever it is, just make sure that you've got a really distinctive name. The format is set to EXR. I am going to change that over to PNGs. PNGs are lighter files. The EXR contains 32-bit depth information. It contains a high dynamic range. We don't need that for this project. The PNG is going to be just fine. I can leave the rest of this alone, except for one thing. Under Frame Animation Extension, this is set to name.extension single frame. If I click on this, I want to set this down to the next option, name.number.extension. You could also use name_number.extension, but don't use any of the other ones, especially name.extension.number. That's going to make a bunch of completely unusable files for you because it puts the number after the file name. What all of these do is they will allow me to render a sequence of images out of the render view, which is great. That's all I need to do. But because I'm getting a numbered sequence, they're all going to have a number somewhere in the file name. These options tell Maya where to put that number. Definitely don't put it after your extension. I like name.number.extension because I'm very lazy and it's close to the top of the list. That's all I'm going to say. The range of frames that I'm rendering right now is 1 to 10, and I can see that up here too, BB01 through BB10. I need to render 48 frames because this assignment is 48 frames long. If you have more than 48 frames, that's fine. That's all I need to do here. This is a good time for me to come into my Arnold Renderer tab and turn this up to 5 or 7 or however high you are willing to go to clean up your render, have less speckling, and get a cleaner result. Remember, this is always a balance between the amount of time that you want to spend on the render and how nice you want it to look. So with this set and my Common tab set, I am just about ready to go. Oh, before I forget, back in the Common tab I can also change my image size. By default I'm rendering HD 540, which is a preview size. If you wanted to move up to full-size HD because you think this is going to be a really good portfolio piece, that's awesome. I would recommend HD 1080, that's the largest HD size you can have. There's also HD 720, which is a smaller high-definition size. For this class, I'm fine with you doing a preview render size. 960 by 540 is going to work just fine. So that's the render settings window, and I am all set up to render.